everybody, and welcome to Positive Fandom. I am your host, Arton, and today I have with me, of course, Darth Plato. Hi, Darth Plato. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a nice warm day out in California. I just sat down from doing my errands and I'm ready to watch a movie.
Well, I wish I had this nice warm day that you had, Darth Plato. In the Northeast, we still have remnants of these, I would call them Atlantic hurricanes. They're out there, they're not on the shoreline, but they're affecting our weather. And we've been having cold, rainy days. It should be like 75 degrees right now. It's in the 50s and 60s. So, I am like crying my eyes out because I can't go to the boardwalk. I was able to go this morning and walk for a few hours, but normally, what would happen is I'd go again in the evening, and there's no way I can do it. It rained earlier. It's going to rain tonight. There's going to be a lot of rain coming up, but that's okay because we're going to be watching Troy today, as you had suggested, Darth Plato. I'm so excited. Um, yeah, right, Tom. Tom was like, "Thanks for rubbing in the weather." I'm so excited to be watching Troy, Darth Plato, and I remember
Hey,
when.
I didn't know what the weather was over there. Hey.
Well, I'm happy that you are having beautiful weather in California, and certainly that makes me feel happy there. Um, it's interesting because I remember going to see this film, and I had heard about it, but I didn't read anything about it, and I went with my best friend, and we saw it at the AMC, which is the busiest theater I think in the United States, the one on 42nd Street. I think it's called AMC 54, but I could be wrong of the name, and I don't even know what was called that back then. But we went to see Troy, and the theater was pretty much new or had just been newly renovated. So we were going to see the movies, and we had such a great time. This is one of the most spectacular films I had seen, really, and I was not expecting this type of spectacle. I was especially surprised at not just the way that the film was presented, but also the fighting scenes. I really like the fighting scenes in this. So it really felt really good. Like this was a feel good film, even though, it's based on a love story that kind of ruins and causes a war. But even so, it was spectacularly done. I think it looks beautiful. And the casting was great. It was a lot of fun to watch this. You had asked the question, Darth Plato. Your question was, do you care that the movie is not a faithful retelling of Homer's Iliad? And this is a good question. Like, this is very interesting. I had said, I don't know whether I had said, I think the fantasy of the film shows through more than its historical accuracy. And of course it does. Um, I don't know what to think. I mean, it is very interesting to look at the historical accuracy and whether it's faithful to, does any of the story even make sense in the time frame they're telling it, the sequence of events. This person didn't say that. It's a good question. um and I think that, when I first saw the film, it wasn't 100% important to me. But what's interesting is that now I'm getting the impression that these films are the only things that people are looking at when it comes to historical events, or even, let's say, whether it's based on historical events or whatever it is, based on a particular type of literature, Homer's Iliad. I think it's very interesting because this might be it. Not everybody's going to read that, and certainly
No.
this might be it. Darth Plato, what do you think?
Well, I haven't read it in 35 years. Not a lot of people read the book. To be fair, it is pretty violent. If you can read the Iliad, you can read anything.
It's
I have mixed feelings about the question myself. That's why I'm asking the question because I don't think a movie like the Iliad can faithfully be brought to screen. I really don't believe it can be because it's just so violent, and it would be a little weird because the behavior of the Greek god. I don't, have you read the Iliad?
I haven't read the entire thing. I've read passages of it.
Okay. Well, the Greek gods are very active in the story. They actually appear on the battlefield and actually try to affect the outcome. We're not going to see that in Troy, though. And it can be a little hard to watch. They do really weird things, like the river comes to life and tries to attack people. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and this is very interesting, and to kind of talk about this and bring more attention even to the Iliad. I want to say hi to Brogu, who's here. Hi, Brogu. Just saying hello. Hey, Brogu, thank you for stopping by. Good to see you. Tom Jr. Jackson, who's here as well, a moderator, collaborator, and friend. Tom, always great to see you. We are all Ruth people.
Yeah, Tom's always welcome here. Thanks for moderating, Tom.
Absolutely. We also have Wex Ruther. Wex Ruther, who's here, says Achilles. Yes. Um, and there that is certainly something. One of the major actors here, especially in this film. Tom says there's a Troy series on Netflix.
Yeah, I did watch that as well. Yeah.
I haven't watched it. Tom, did you watch it? And what'd you think of it, Tom? Good to hear that. Wex Luther says the Iliad probably isn't all that historical, which may be true. Um, and Wex says that the Troy show was terrible, but he still watched it all.
Yeah, I did.
Interesting. Interesting. You know something? I'm so glad they made this film,
Yeah.
Darth Plato. I think that if we were going to see a spectacle, and it's true that the gods are not as involved in this as they would have been according to the actual story, but I think that if they were going to create a spectacle that's supposed to look glamorous and Hollywood style version, and I'm saying it truthfully, a Hollywood style version of a historical event, this does it. This is it. You want to go into the theater and you want to be entertained and see some spectacular things, you will see it all in Troy. I think it certainly can.
Spectacle is a good word for it.
Yeah, it is, but it is, isn't it? It certainly satisfies a lot. And if you want to see more accurate, reenactments of the Iliad, where I live in New York, there's a lot of sort of like these off Broadway Greek plays that have a lot of those themes, and they explore what happens before, during, and after, let's say, the Trojan horse incident. In that, and it is interesting to see how a lot of this stuff plays out. So, if you want to get down to that, that's what I would recommend to people. You could probably find some of those Greek plays on YouTube as well. So, if you're not going to read the Iliad, which is it's the
Oh yeah,
closest
I
thing.
have no doubt that there are people who read the book online. You can just follow along.
Yes. And, I would also recommend if an audio book. And certainly the language is colorful, and I like the way that the writing is in it. So, all right. Anything you want to say about the movie before we start, Darth Plato?
I say let's start our engines and get to it.
All right. Without any further ado, we're starting at 43 seconds. You can see the timer down there. There's a timer right there. And I'm going to press the timer, and we're going to start it in 3, 2, 1, play. And it's 3,200 years ago.
Yep.
After decades of warfare, Agamemnon, king of Mycenae, was forced the kingdoms of Greece into a loose alliance. Only Thessaly remains unconquered.
Yeah, Thessaly is the north central part of the northern Greek.
Agamemnon's brother, Menelaus, king of Sparta, is weary of battle. He seeks to make peace with Troy, the most powerful rival to the emerging Greek nation.
The use of the names. Go ahead, read.
Achilles, considered the greatest warrior ever born, fights for the Greek army, but his disdain for Agamemnon's rule threatens to break the fragile alliance apart. Now, what were you saying, Darth Plato?
Some words are anachronistic, like Sparta. Sparta didn't come about until the 8th century BC, so it literally did not exist in 3,200 years ago. And the word that Sparta doesn't appear in the Iliad either. They're called the Lacedaemons, and the Greeks are not referred to the Greeks. They're actually referred to as the Achaeans. So there are some anachronisms. This where we are is called Thessaly. It's the north central location, kind of a little close, not right in the middle, but kind of right of center.
And it's scenes like this opening scene, Darth Plato, I will never forget it. I will never forget this scene. I think this is the way you open up a film, Darth Plato. This is the way you open up a film, because this is pure movie magic, Darth Plato. Because I know what's going to happen, but it's just so darn good, even though I know what's going to happen.
Yeah, look at all those guys. Yeah, I would have preferred if they were real guys in real armor, like
Yeah.
a reenactment. Yeah, back in those days, kings were really just warlords. They're just glorified warlords, really. And this is set during a time where that was more obvious.
Absolutely. And of course, we have, I think it's Richard Harris. I hope I'm saying the right name. Maybe I'm not. Um,
Brian Cox,
Brian
Agamemnon.
Cox is Agamemnon. And why did I think it was Richard Harris? It's obviously not.
Yeah, all the people he just named, they all come from Lower Greece, the Peloponnesus.
Like I think that's Julian Glover, but I'm not sure.
General Veers.
I love this. I love this. We're not going to spill a lot of blood here. It's going to be a one-on-one battle.
Yep, that's Nathan Jones.
My strongest man against your strongest man. And this is pure spectacle. This is the stuff of legends.
No, they really did do stuff. But from time to time, they had like a champion versus a champion, and they would just decide the battle that way.
Hmm.
It was more economical
Absolutely.
because losing soldiers, that's the last thing you want to do, because your soldiers are coming from your workforce.
And I love this. Of course,
You're losing
Achilles
your
is
workforce.
otherwise occupied. Darth Plato. Late to the battle, if you will. But to be honest with you, it really does feel like this is a one-man show. Um, with the outcome, although he's not the leader in this, but I just find it so fascinating. Look at this. Brad Pitt, of course there is a woman with him, but Brad Pitt.
More than one.
Hey Blazing Asian, how are you today? Hope you were well, and I hope you were watching Troy along with us.
How you doing, Blazing? You also touched on the notion of we know what's coming. Yeah, that's one of the primary themes of the Iliad is the notion of fate.
Certainly is. Aww.
Yeah, I love the musical cues all through this movie.
Yeah, that's also a very good point, Darth Plato. And that's so important when creating the mood, especially for someone who's watching this and maybe the only time they've ever heard of these characters is that first, the first few uh bits where they give you the paragraph in the beginning. That might be all they know.
Unfortunately, yes.
What?
Yeah, the older gentleman speaking here is Nestor.
Thank you so much. I love this. You can end this war with a swing of your sword. No, that's a dig. Imagine a king who fights his own battles. Wouldn't that be a sight? That's a dig. I like
Yep.
it.
Well, that was the Norman those days.
You hate him, but you love him, and you know it. Ah! It's like so exciting and
Yeah, look at the spear throw.
oh man, just so amazing. Ah, ah. Still one of the most spectacular things I've ever seen in my life, Darth Plato. Just for the cinema, for the cinema.
Is there no one else? Son of Peleus. Peleus was one of the Argonauts. And that might be a true statement.
Is this so? What do you think, Darth Plato? Because they didn't have to do this. Achilles' frustration is this notion. Does he feel like he's being used? What is Achilles' motivation here for being kind of like
What
ho
motive?
humish?
Whose motivation?
I'm sorry,
Whose motivation?
Achilles' motivation.
I don't know because it's not in the Iliad. That whole scene was something they did for the movie. So I don't know why. If he's not your king, then why were you even there to begin with? It doesn't actually make sense. Even though it is a great scene.
I guess maybe it just is they're trying to show that he has some bit or a sense of arrogance, which would be considered a flaw, right? It would be a character flaw for a character like this.
Yeah, because they're changing it from the Iliad. In the Iliad, the story starts with the dispute over Briseis, about Achilles having to had when Agamemnon absconded with Briseis. The movie starts at that point, or not the movie, but the Iliad starts at that point. This, what we're seeing now, the movie, completely different. So they had to contrive something else. And by the way, Sparta was not a coastal city. It did not have a port. Doesn't this scene remind you of the first episode of Game of Thrones?
Yes, it does. So Orlando Bloom plays Paris, and of course Diane Kruger plays Helen, and they immediately have this attraction, or they've already been fooling around, or what. It doesn't matter. You can tell by the looks immediately, Darth Plato, that something's going on between them, and it's not good. But they're both, even his brother Eric Bana, who is looking on, knows something is wrong,
Yeah,
and
I feel
he
like that.
oh God. It's a very difficult position that they're in.
No, it's a little bit different in the Iliad. They don't actually show what happened. Um, but it does say that Paris raided the palace to get Helen. It wasn't a friendly get together, and it doesn't elaborate on to whether Helen went willingly or whether she was abducted. It doesn't elaborate on that at all.
And of course, for the purpose. Oh, and guys, make sure you are subscribing to Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel. Tom Jr. Jackson has his own YouTube channel, and you're going to love it. Make sure you support creators the way we do. Subscribe to Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel. The link is in the chat. Blazing Asian says forbidden love. Yeah, we do get this forbidden love vibe, but they are in love. Like they are in love. There's no, it's not sort of like just an ordinary attraction, right? Everybody, this is whew, yeah, this is really an intense thing that's going on. And the fact that they put Eric Bana Eric Bana's character in a position to know what was going on. Hector is very uncomfortable for him. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody, of course, because as you all know, this is Helen of Troy. But I really do like, from a theatrical point of view, um, Darth Plato, this feels really intense, doesn't it?
Yeah, he said the Sea of Propontis. The Sea of Propontis is where Constantinople would eventually be built.
This is a beautiful love scene between the two of them. I mean, they're not actually doing anything, but it is like a very nice, intimate scene.
My notes.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, Helen was abducted more than once.
And guess what? There's a stowaway. I know I'm kind of making a joke about it, but does that show that he has a history of stealing?
Might. In the myth, he was actually married to somebody else before this. They actually show that in the Netflix series. He would have blew a stack.
Oh, it's so good. It's very intense. Like the first 15 minutes of the film, Darth Plato.
But they did a good job contriving it. Yeah, because none of this is in the Iliad, but they had to do something, and I thought they did a good job with it for what it is.
Yeah, and it is true. There's a lot of things that happen, I always say, off stage that aren't recorded anywhere, but there had to be some level of dramatization for this to work for most people, I think.
Yeah, because I don't think Hector was involved at all in the abduction.
That's what they should have done. That's what they should have done. They should have let Paris, let's say hypothetically, go back with Helen and let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, I appreciate the observation, but that's not going to happen.
Yes, I do realize that.
Because in those days, the family was paramount. It was you always supported whatever happened. It's a little hard to explain to a modern audience. It's just the way tribalism worked in those days. I don't want to go off on that.
Well, it's a huge part of the story, honestly, when you think about it. There wasn't going to be any forgiveness
they
after
didn't they
that.
didn't they didn't have a sense of modern ethics. That what was moral to them was if you could do it, if you could pull it off, then that was good. So the fact that Paris raided Sparta to get Helen is considered a heroic act. It's heroic if you can do it, and if it's heroic, it's good. That was how they thought in those days. Completely different from how we think now, unless you're a pro athlete.
It's funny because when in real life, when he gets her back, he doesn't kill her.
Back in stock.
Mhm. Well, that peaceful alliance didn't last for very long.
The Trojan in those days probably would have been an offshoot of the Hittites. I don't think they would have been Greek, even though they did have a Greek quote unquote culture, kind of like what there was with the Macedonians. The Macedonians weren't Greek, but they did have a Greek culture. This entire scene is contrived. The feud between Achilles and Agamemnon did not begin until after the incident with Briseis. I'm not sure, but I think Patroclus might have been older than Achilles.
Oh, Patrocles?
Yeah, Patroclus. He might have been. I don't remember. Odysseus. This scene is entirely fictional. It's not in the Iliad, but I love this scene. I love this entire dialogue.
And of course, that is it Sean Bean?
It is. True. That sounds like something he would have said.
I'm on board. How about you, Darth Plato?
And for real, no, I would never have gotten mad of something like that.
This war will never be forgotten.
Yeah, I love the color of the water. I wonder what this is.
Stunning, isn't it? So beautiful.
Yeah, Lance would probably know.
And Tom might know.
By the way, they weren't cousins. Achilles and Patroclus. I'm not sure. I'm not sure why they did that for the movie. There's the notion of fate. Yeah, fate is a very common theme, and we're seeing it here.
Let's see what this says, what it is. It says Malta, the small island of Comino,
Malta. Okay, I believe that.
and also they filmed in Cabo San Lucas in Mexico. We were talking about where the filming locations were, Tom Jr. Jackson, but I think I found it already, and thanks for asking.
Your glory walk hand in hand with your doom. Yeah, that
That is a great line.
yep. That is also right out of the Iliad.
Is it verbatim?
Hmm?
Is it verbatim?
No, but the concept is very much there. Achilles knew that he was going to die.
In that battle.
Oh yeah, he knew he was going to die during the war.
Yeah.
The Trojan War lasted 10 years, and when the Iliad began, they're actually in year 9. So the war's been going on for 9 years. So everything we're seeing here is this. It's contrived. It doesn't show the initial landing. So the whole thing about the initial landing and the Achilles land on the beach, all of that is made up. Well, it's all made up story, sure, but different from the Iliad. That's an amazing shot.
It is lovely. It looks so good. And that's how you would imagine it would look if you could zoom out. As if we had the power to zoom out, that's what you would expect to see.
Honestly, I don't think it would have looked like that. Um, I think it would have been smaller waves rather than having a bunch of ships all at once because one storm will wipe everybody out. Just ships weren't that reliable in those days. One storm
Yeah.
will end them.
But I mean, if you had to see ships in a harbor, let's say, or in right in that vicinity, and you needed to show that there was 1,000 ships,
Yeah, that would be
that's what
scary.
you would kind of like expect it to look like in the ocean. Maybe they're not all going to sail at once, but
Yeah,
it's
that's probably what Lepanto looked like. The battle.
yeah.
And by the way, so the Trojans were at sea, and now they're arriving back at Troy. And the previous scene, you saw all the ships ready sailing for Troy. No way. It would have taken years, I mean years, to organize a force of that strength and get them sailing. It wouldn't have happened while the Trojans were still at sea sailing for Troy. There's no way it would have happened that quickly. And this city is far too impressive for its day and age.
I do also want to mention the costume designer Bob Ringwood, um, who did the costume design for the film. It was just absolutely fabulous. I love what he did here.
I agree. Yeah. It's a great looking movie. And drama key. Yeah, it's another cousin nonsense. Briseis was not cousin with the royal family. She wasn't even from Troy.
So it says it on YouTube. So I'm sorry, Wikipedia. I didn't know this, but the role of Briseis was supposed to go to a Bollywood actress by the name of Ashura Rai. But she turned down the role because there were the sex scenes between her and um, Brad Pitt were so, sexual that she didn't feel comfortable filming it, so she didn't take the role.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Turned down Brad Pitt. Huh?
Now, Plato, what are you thinking of the performances by the actors as well so far?
So far, I love everything about it. It's the reason why it's one of my favorite movies. Even though I'm also very critical. It's weird because I love this movie, but I'm also very critical of it at the same time.
I mean, for all practical purposes, with the way that, let's say, some Greek plays are, a lot of the action happens off camera, and a description of it verbally isn't necessarily appealing to an audience visually, right? Darth Plato, to have someone go ahead and describe what's happened. But I think if you had to reenact or even fabricate to create suspense, to create this drama, to create the passion of the love that we see in this film, because there's love scenes, it's a lot of sensual scenes. I think it really has a lot of incredible spirit and also drives a lot of interest into this era. We were talking, I just think that that's something that made this film so popular. And it is true. There had to be sort of, I'm going to say, a lot of speculation. The story kind of had to be created, and but I think if you were going to create a story from the Iliad, this is the type of story I'd want to create from it. I think it does absolutely keep you engaged, even though it's not 100% true.
No, you're absolutely right. That's a good point. No, you're not. Here comes the music.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, when I saw this movie, the other people would said that it was too much like Gladiator.
Um,
That's not such a bad thing.
yeah, I agree. I think this is much more spectacular than Gladiator. However, I understand the sentiment. The sentiment feels the same. an ancient time with a story that, just is so compelling.
Yeah, the wood, what they're doing here with the wooden stuff. I'm not so sure how necessary that is because it's much more to break up mass cavalry and mass infantry, and they just didn't fight like that in those days. Mass cavalry wasn't a thing until Alexander the Great. This is almost 1,000 years earlier.
And thank you, Tom Jr. Jackson, who says, don't forget that Lorena and I have our show, Ladies of the PGS, on Monday nights on the Burnettwork. Please do join us for that. We have another exciting episode on Monday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
There we go. Amazing shot.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's frightening too.
It's frightening, but it fills you with so much wonder it's just,
That'd have been quite a journey across the Aegean like that. Wouldn't Menelaus be with his own ship?
absolutely.
And so basically, the way it worked in those days, and until actually very recently, you basically just had a hierarchy of kings, where you have a king and then like an over king that ruled over other kings and chieftains or whatever you want to call them. And Agamemnon is the chief king. He's like the over king, the overlord. It was like that in the Trojan War too. Troy wasn't the only city. When you watch the movie, you get the sense that Troy is the only city they were fighting in. They were fighting against all the cities in the region. They were all loyal to Troy. So the war was actually a lot more expansive than the movie lets on. Yeah, this is a nonsense scene. This is one of the scenes I don't like. Now, Patroclus was an accomplished warrior. He wasn't some young student who was inexperienced. He knew what he was doing. In the Iliad, I mean. I don't think fire arrows. I don't think they would have been using fire arrows.
Brad Pitt almost looks like a linebacker running into, the other side to fight. It's very impressive.
The shield, the shield wall. What they're doing is what the Romans would have called tuxedo.
Hmm.
Yeah, this.
It's very popular in movies, especially.
Yeah, I know. They wouldn't have done something like this in that day and age. It's an anachronism.
Mhm.
However cool it looks.
Yeah, it does look cool, doesn't it?
Womp.
Ooh, wow, that is brutal. To be honest with you, there's a lot going on in these fight scenes, Darth Plato,
Yeah.
and I have to give them a lot of credit for, even editing some of that because it's a lot in it. The
Yes.
action is so
Yeah.
fast paced.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I would say I can't even look at that footage because it's just no one's gonna like even understand it. But it looks good. Maybe they even had to slow it down a little bit, but
That's a big dude.
yeah.
No, Ajax was a serious guy. Yeah, I don't think he dies in the Iliad.
And it's Tyler Maine who plays Ajax in the film.
Yeah, Ajax dueled Hector twice, and he survived both times. The second time they fought, Hector was the one carried off the field. It's obviously different in the movie. He moves pretty good.
Ugh.
He looks like he's running for a touchdown.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, this is actually very watered down from what you see in the Iliad. Like how many different ways can the spirit enter the body? Well, if you read the Iliad, you'll know the answer to that question.
And this is like would be considered taboo, like pilfering a temple. Let's say.
Yeah, the temple wasn't there in the Iliad. This is just in the movie.
Hmm.
But what they're doing, what they're like sacking the location, that was very common until actually very recently. There's another scene I don't care. I don't care for that whole scene about.
I didn't like it either. I thought they could have just left it alone with the when you know they start to ransack it, and then there's some retribution because they did that. But he didn't have to cut off the head of the god.
You know, think they're trying to insert some sort of modern secular humanism now.
He threw that like an Olympian, didn't he, Darth Plato?
You know, the javelin throw was an Olympic sport.
Yeah. And it still is, right? It's still an Olympic sport, right? He's like, "Come and get me. How you like me now?" Like, oh gosh. I'll show you my bloody sword if you dare enter in here.
Yeah, step into my web, said the spotter to the fly.
These are also very good fight scenes.
Close quarters fight, yeah, that would have been brutal. Very neat scene here. Love this scene. Well, to the Greeks, war was a game. All the Olympic sports were activities that you would see in war. To them, it literally was a game. It's an amazing sight.
It's so incredible. I mean, the cinematography alone in this.
This is what 20 years ago.
Yes, around 20 years. The movie came out in, I think, 2004.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost 20 years. You're right, Darth Vader. It's just so amazing.
Well, the production would have been 20 years ago.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, it's an amazing sight. This would have been the largest amphibious invasion in history.
Yeah. I think it's very funny that you had said she gave up Brad Pitt. That's hilarious. I mean, it's true, but
All right, so in the Iliad, the Trojans sacked a city, or not a Trojan, the Greek, they sacked a city, and Briseis was a captive given to Achilles for his prowess in battle. There was another thing going on with Agamemnon and a negotiation to return one of his captives to another king in exchange for being an ally. Return my whoever it was, my and Agamemnon refused to do that at first, and so they agreed on that he would give back the captive if they would sanction Agamemnon being able to take a substitute, and he chose to take Briseis away from Achilles. And that's the beginning of the Iliad. So the book starts at that point. And there was no love story between Achilles and Briseis in the Iliad, but they do have it here.
yeah, and this is of course the scene that that famous Indian actress um she said she didn't feel comfortable filming. I didn't really think this was sort of a bad love scene. I thought it was an excellent love scene. But every actor, I think, knows what they want to do and what they don't want to do with their careers. And I have to give her credit for saying, no, that's not for me.
Yeah, but bear in mind, she is his captive while that's going on. So there's a certain aspect to that that's going to trigger people now.
Oh, Bonzo. Where did that come from, Bonzo? Wow, that is really nice of you to say. Bonzo says a positive fandom is the face that launched 1001 ships. Wow, Bonzo. Thank you so much for that. I love that. It's very nice of you to say that. And Bonzo, I hope you are well tonight. Let us know what your favorite scene in the movie is, Bonzo, or some of your favorite scenes in Troy.
Yes, it was. That's a bit of an anachronism. They didn't really have history in those days.
So they'd want people to remember through word of mouth,
Yeah, it
through
was all.
oral
That's right. It was all song. That's right. The Greeks never really bothered writing things down to record history until the 5th century BC. That would be several hundred years after this.
go Achilles, go.
Yeah, no, you're not.
And Bonzo Gilbert says Achilles versus Fogarus when Achilles goes, "Is there no one else? Is there no one else?" I have to say it like that. And thank you, Bonzo, for sharing that. And guys, it's so much fun to watch this film.
I'd like to hear Russ recite that.
Yes.
And by a sign of Apollo, he means the green hand in space.
Hmm.
I almost wish they did have the gods in this movie. You know, like in Clash of the Titans, they show the gods.
Oh yeah, that would have been nice.
And if they had Apollo look exactly like the character in the original Shrek episode,
Um, I
that'd be cool.
I think when he cut off the god's head and the god eyes opened, that would have been freaky.
Oh, that was amazing. That scene. That was Hera.
Yeah.
That would scare the crap out of people.
But it would be ominous enough that you would believe it because of what is what's
You
happening.
silly hag! How dare you talk like that? I'm gonna send the Kraken to destroy your city. No, they really don't. There was a duel between Paris and Menelaus in the book, so that did happen.
But they make in this film, they make Paris seem like he's a lover and not a fighter.
Yeah, which is silly. In the book he was someone that could handle himself. He wasn't Hector, he wasn't Achilles, of course not, but he wasn't completely like worthless and helpless.
I love her in this role. I can't remember this actress's name, but I thought she was wonderful in this.
There is a scene in the book where she does give strategy advice, so I think that this scene is a nod to that.
And you know something, I think that this scene rings true Darth Plato because any woman would say this to the man that they love, not to go into the battle.
Sure.
So what she's doing wouldn't stop anything anyway, right, Darth Plato?
This wouldn't change anything,
Yeah.
not at this point. Um, the book does imply that if Menelaus had won the fight, that would have ended the war. It does imply that, so who knows? Maybe this would have ended it.
Hmm.
But the way it's made out in the movie, it's like yeah, Agamemnon wasn't going to back down for any reason.
And he doesn't in the real story. Um,
Well, Agamemnon is a conniving individual in the book, so that is consistent. I didn't really like that scene, that dialogue. The scene before that was really good,
I agree.
but that scene I didn't like. Right, and so what we're seeing here, where they're trying to talk to Achilles, this is the meat of the Iliad. The pride of Achilles refusing to fight. It's much worse in the book. No argument. Basically, what they're implying is that this is a cult.
Oh my gosh, you guys are too much tonight. My goodness. Tom Jr. Jackson says, art, the face of beauty, style, and as always, kindness. Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much for saying that. That's so sweet of you. Thank you.
Well, it is the It Show. The It Girl and the It Show.
Thank you, Darth Plato.
I guess I had to. Did you say something else? I'll be left out. By the way, they wouldn't have been out in the open like this. See, they were all lined up. They wouldn't have done that. Look how big their shields are. There's no way they would have used shields like that. See how big the walls are? There's no way the walls would have been that big. I
But for
mean,
the
it
purpose
looks,
of the
yeah,
film,
it looks really impressive, but it just wouldn't have looked like that. Not in the 13th, 12th century BC. No way.
yeah,
Look at that masonry. There's no way.
it's but it looks so good, Darth
I
Plato.
know it looks great, but it just wouldn't have looked. They didn't even have line infantry in those days.
Thank you, JH Edits. Thank you so much to you. I so appreciate that. Thank you. And I hope you are well and enjoying the film. Um, we're at an hour and 6 minutes in, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, there was a queen, but for some reason they left that character out. Yeah, I like this scene they're approaching. The look everyone has. It's really neat. What they're doing right now is they're trying to presage doom because like I said, one of the running themes in the Iliad was the sense of impending doom, fate, and it was fated that Troy would fall, and that's what they're showing there. They're showing the look of dread on their face, like they see their doom approaching. They're trying to capture that element from the book.
Well, they've captured it.
Yeah, I like how they're all in the chariot. So that those are all the chiefs in their chariots, and they're all approaching as one, representing their factions. That's actually pretty cool how they do that. That probably is what they would have done.
It's stunning.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's supposed to signal. That's true. They made a big deal about hospitality in those days and guest right and respecting your host. That was a very important theme in those days. It always has been, but especially in those days. Why should you be careful? You're going to fight anyway. It's for you. Look how big that gate is. That is a massive city.
Was it a mistake to make Paris look so vulnerable, Darth Plato?
I don't know. But I don't like the fact that they did that. They should have had him fight like Legolas.
Yes.
Yeah, he wasn't helpless. He was overmatched by Menelaus in the book. That is true, but it wasn't like this. This is almost painful to watch.
It's not I mean, no, I know his brother's laughing, but it's not funny. It's got a kind of a foolish feeling to it, like he's very foolish.
Yeah,
If
it
this
is.
is his fighting and he can't fight against him. Hey, Bosco Scenario is here. How are you, the Bosco Scenario? Hope you are well. Good to see you tonight. I hope you're watching Troy along with us. We're at 1 hour and 15 minutes, and it's been such an amazing film.
It is. In the Iliad, there are multiple points where Hector encourages Paris to take the field, and he does. So we know that he was at least somewhat a man of worth. He did raid Sparta to take Helen in the first place. In the book, that is. What a craven display, seriously.
They could have just taken him too. You know what I mean, Darth Plato?
Could have what?
They could have just taken Paris.
I don't remember how the fight ended. I think the gods intervened. Yeah. Aphrodite intervened and stole Paris away.
Yeah. And Jane H. edits, the answer is yes. This is Orlando Bloom who plays Paris.
Yeah, it is. And by the way, Menelaus does not die in the Iliad.
You know, he comes back and gets her, as you said, more than once. And so he's not done.
I know that's half of. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's an egregious departure from the novel.
And JH Edit says, okay, I just wanted to make sure I had the right movie. I hadn't seen this one. Oh, you haven't seen this one? Oh my gosh. I'd be interested to see what you think of it after seeing it.
There did come a point there was a truce. There was a truce because they were going to have the duel. Then the duel ended, and there was confusion about what's going to happen now. And then the truce was broke. I don't remember what happened. It didn't happen like this though. But the action didn't play out like that. This looks really cool, but it's not realistic for the day and age. Warfare in this day and age would not have looked like that.
It's not realistic for today. Like, this little boy goes up to fight and then he's supposed to kill him. Like, it's no one wants to be the winner in that. You're defeating a child almost. So it's not necessarily an honorable win, at least the way I would look at it. I don't think any king would want that.
Yeah, get them at yeah. That's an anachronism. They didn't have line infantry in those days. What happened in the book was when the Trojans were not outside the city like that. They were inside behind the walls. So when the Greeks got close to started getting closer to the wall, they sallied out through another opening, and they punished the Greeks that way, and then retreated. It was called a sortie. All right, so this is the duel of Hector and Ajax.
This looks great, Darth Plato.
It's an impressive scene. It is.
That is great. That is so good. It's funny because he's a professional wrestler, and there's a lot of. I think he really does kind of create a lot of drama in these movements.
Sheesh.
Oh,
Yeah, this is Abnum Moon.
he's not done. Shoot.
Yeah, and Abnum Moon was always fatal in those days, up until the 20th century.
Oh. I understood that reference.
All right, so there's another egregious departure of the Iliad because Ajax did not die at the hand of Achilles. In the
or
Iliad,
uh,
yeah,
or
he doesn't die
or
in the Iliad at all.
right. Or was it Hector who killed Ajax, or was it in the
No,
film?
no. I think the death of Ajax is spelled out in the Odyssey. It's
Yeah,
I think what happened was, if I remember correctly, Ajax actually killed himself.
I thought it was Hector who killed him in this film, but you're saying it's Achilles who does it?
Uh, Ajax does not die in battle; he kills himself.
No, I mean in this movie, Darth Plato.
Oh, in this movie, I'm sorry. What about
Yeah,
it?
it's Hector who kills him, right?
Hector kills Ajax. Yes.
Yeah, I don't believe that that would happen. Sorry, I don't even believe it after watching it. I think
Well,
that he would have
yeah,
crushed
he
Hector,
may not have been that big in the book.
but you know
That
what I
was a
mean.
big guy.
I think he would have crushed him. Like he was just so hell bent on trying to kill him, and I don't believe that Hector had that sentiment of wanting to kill anybody. From what I'm watching in the movie, you know what I mean, Darth Leto?
Yeah, I know that, but this is a much softer version of Hector compared to the book. The book is a much harder, harsher figure.
J.H.
But
Edison, I don't think
I,
I'm in the right spot because I'm seeing a dramatic romance scene. Well, those dramatic romance scenes are wonderful. We are at 1 hour and 22 minutes into this film, J.H. Edix, but you go on and you enjoy those romantic, dramatic romance scenes because they are so good in this film.
so this entire scene would have taken place in the ninth year of the war. They're making it out like it was the first year, the first battle.
Now, J.H. Edix, you might be watching what cut is that one, Darth Plato? The movie that's 3 hours and 15 minutes. What is it called? Is it the director's
Yeah,
cut?
that's the director's cut. Yeah.
So, J.H. Edix, we are watching the theatrical version, which is 2 hours and 45 minutes. So there's a 30 minutes difference if you're watching a different cut. Maybe that is also why you are seeing a dramatic romance scene.
Oh shoot.
And I am looking forward to the romance scene that we're going to see in a little while. I think it might be next. Yeah. So the scene we're seeing right now is they are burning the dead on pyres. That's what we are seeing right now, JH, at 1 hour and 24 minutes.
2014. Yeah, I don't know if they did the coin on the eyes in those days. They might have. Yeah, I'm not sure when they started doing that, but they definitely did do cremation. The Trojans didn't. The Trojans did not cremate.
Okay, you're switching versions? Okay, no problem, JH Edits. Right now, Paris is having his leg sewn up by Helen.
Hello. Yeah, look at that compliment from Helen. Yeah, that line about the Hittites is nonsense. He wouldn't have done that. Yeah, that's a pretty gross breach of what they would have done in that time.
She's devoted her entire life to worshiping the gods, so she'd be very desirable, I think, to
Well, that's yeah. In those days, they made a they, your honor was directly valued by your trophies in war. Trophies and captives were a big part of your measure as a warrior. So you didn't just give them away. So this idea that his trophy, he was going to just give his trophy to his men to have fun with, he wouldn't have done that. He absolutely would not have. So that whole scene is nonsense.
lucky girl
Why is that?
because she's with Achilles, played by Brad Pitt. And there's scenes of a sexual nature, but it is actually a beautiful scene. The two of them together is really nice.
No, you haven't. That's a great line.
Nothing to say to that, J.H. Edits. I do think that there's a lot of nice sexual tension in this scene.
I might actually recognize it one day when I'm not complaining about how it differs from the book. Yeah, you look at it and you see one thing, and I'm sitting there going, "Oh, that's not in the book. No, no, no." Athena was also the goddess of war. You know what's really onerous about this scene, though?
What?
He knows he's doomed. He knows he's going to die. So isn't he kind of leading her on?
She worships the gods, and he's half god, so she has to worship him.
This is a neat scene of tension, I admit. Do it. Do it. What a way to go.
Yeah, I would hate it.
Couldn't the other actress have? I guess they couldn't have done that.
A body double?
Yeah, I think they did. I think they did that in the Conan movie.
Hmm. They
The
definitely could have done a body double because it's not a long love scene. This is so beautiful. Look at the sunset, Darth Plato. It's so beautiful. That's incredible looking. I think they could have had a body double, but
well, they
for I
did.
think
Yeah, they did do that in Conan movie. Yeah, the actress that was not the same girl in the sex scene. What's her name? Rachel Nichols. Yeah, she didn't want to be intimate with Jason Momoa.
oh God, what is wrong to people today?
Yeah, what he's saying is absolutely true. If you're king of a small country, you can't have an enemy like that.
Yes. Yeah, JH edits. I'm not quite sure why she wasn't. I don't understand it. That's confusing.
Yeah. It's just personal. Some people just they have different attitudes about intimacy.
But at least she turned down the role and didn't get like to the scene where she's like, I need an intimacy coordinator. Like it would have been a disaster, Darth Plato. It wouldn't have had the same intensity.
I don't know.
Not if she doesn't want to do it. She's forced herself to do something she doesn't want to do.
That somewhat is accurate. Patroclus he did become sympathetic to the Greek cause, so he did sort of part company with Achilles on that point because after all, it was Achilles' honor.
But they do underestimate them, don't they?
Why would the Temple of Apollo be outside the city?
Maybe they have more than one temple to Apollo.
It's a made up angle. And the king decision, I don't know. The way they depicted that, I don't know. But what we're about to see is something that did happen.
Like, this is not terrible. This is not terrible. This is an intimate scene, but it's not like the most degrading. Like, it's a legitimate scene. It's not terrible. I don't get it.
He's having sex with his slave. That triggers people. Yeah, the Trojans spent the night in the plains in preparation for this attack. So something like this did happen in the book.
I love it, Darth Plato.
It looks scary. Yeah. I'm a little curious how did they really haul all those balls away from the city?
And JH Edits says there are some beautiful shots in this. Absolutely, JH Edits. It looks so good.
It does. There was a wall out there. The Achaeans did build a wall that separated the beach from their ships. Here, they just have a palisade. It's a good scene to get your blood going. Yeah, that constant noise like that, that'd be a hard thing to deal with. I don't think they would have approached like that though. I think they would have been top heavy towards one end, like north or south, and then just sweep down the beach. I don't think they would have approached like that.
Definitely, Tom. This certainly is a great movie.
That's a veteran you're fighting there, son. Oh, everybody's standing around watching. I don't think they would have been standing around watching. Why
Yeah,
is he horrified? I never understand the scene. Why is he horrified?
because he has Achilles' armor on, right, Darth Plato, and they thought it was Achilles.
I know that, but he wouldn't have been horrified by it. Would have been like, okay, what game is this? Yeah, I'm only saying that because it's different in the book. I'm sorry. No, there's no way he would have done that.
So then this becomes the rage that Achilles has. This adds to some of his motivation for
Um,
fighting.
all right, so how this differs from the Iliad is Nestor approaches Patroclus and encourages him to convince Achilles to fight. And when Patroclus says he's not going to be able to convince him, he says, "Well, why don't you lead the fight?" And then the speech that he gives is the same speech that you see at the beginning of the movie where Nestor is talking to Achilles, saying, "Look at the men's faces. You can save hundreds of them." That's the speech that he uses on Patroclus.
Yeah.
And he offers the suggestion: take Achilles' armor, let them see Achilles' armor, and they think it will be Achilles. And so when he goes to Achilles and he offered that suggestion, he said, "This is the suggestion. Let me wear your armor." And Achilles lets him do it. Achilles gives him the armor and said, "Okay, let's see what you can do, but don't pursue the Trojans." The Trojans, when they fought, the Greeks gained the upper hand because of the appearance of the Myrmidons, and the Greeks and the they retreated back to the city. And Patroclus didn't keep his word, and he chased after Hector, and that's when Hector killed him. And then Hector took the armor. Hector wasn't shocked by what he saw. He took the armor. Achilles never got his armor back. Evidently, not good enough.
I don't think he would do this either.
He might have. He was in a terrible rage. He might have. And now we're back to the angle of the doom of Troy and the notion of fate.
He's showing you how to get out.
Yeah, he was a much tougher fighter in the Iliad. He even fought Apollo at one point and survived. You know, you hear this music.
It also sounds like the singer from Gladiator. I can't remember her name, but it reminds me of the music from Gladiator. The "We Will Be Free" song. I think it's "We Will Be Free" or "We Are Free."
Why won't the little bird sing? I think that's what the singer is trying to say there. Why won't the little bird sing? Yeah, that music piece that you hear is very similar to a piece that commemorates a lament for Constantinople. They appropriated it for this movie, but they're actually singing about the fall of Constantinople. And that particular sequence was "Why Won't the Little Bird Sing." Also, the funeral for Patroclus doesn't occur at this point. It doesn't occur until after the confrontation with Achilles, with Hector. I mean, yeah, I think they copied the shot from Platoon.
And also, it's inspired by the statue you see in the beginning of the film. He cuts off its head, but that's what ends up being his undoing from from Paris. That one arrow. Oh, goodness gracious.
So when Achilles learned that Patroclus was dead, he screamed, and the entire world could hear it. That you could hear it at the bottom of the oceans. Apparently, it's
Wow,
a bit poetic, obviously, and it's a big depiction.
I
So
love
his
that.
Yeah, so his mother went to Hephaestus and had Hephaestus fashion a new suit of armor with a new shield, and that was the armor that he used to fight Hector. Yeah, because Hector had taken the armor off Patroclus. And he didn't go alone. He did take a charioteer. It even named him. That's consistent with the book as well. He was such a rage that he was indifferent to everything else. So Agamemnon came and returned Briseis to Achilles, and Achilles was completely indifferent to it.
This is kind of heartbreaking in the film for me.
I don't like this scene. I really don't. I like the fight. I like the fight, but everything else about it I don't like because it's just too much. It's too fatalistic. It's like he's walking around like he knows he's gonna die, and everybody's looking at him like he knows he's gonna die. And sure, the fatalism is very much part of the Iliad. It is, but I don't think it would have looked like this. And it wouldn't. And there wasn't just them out there. There was a battle going on. It wasn't just them. And there was a There was I don't remember. It's been years since I read it. There was a stratagem where the Trojans had to leave the field. I don't remember what they did exactly, but Hector was by himself. They did it that way so that none of the Trojans would interfere with the duel between Achilles and Hector. Um, I think some of the gods did. I think Ares tried to involve himself. I don't remember. I might be thinking of Diomedes. See that scene. It's just too fatalistic.
Yeah, I agree.
They're looking at him like the hobbits are looking at Frodo getting on the boat, like they know they're never going to see him again. Stuff like that's infectious. Mm. Yeah, talk about plucking the heartstrings.
Mm-hmm. I'm just about 2 hours into the film. Yeah, JH Edit says Pitt is pretty good in this. I don't know how I missed this one. Yeah, JH Edits. He is amazing in this film, and I'm glad you're watching it and enjoying the film. Now, as upsetting this duel is, Darth Plato, even I have to admit it looks really, really good.
It does. I'm a little bit skeptical about the use of the spears, though. The sword part's much better. It's much longer in the movie. Almost.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, that's
that's
going.
cold. That's cold. Come on, they didn't have to do that, right, Darth Plato? He trips over a rock.
Yeah, I know. They should have left the rock out.
He sprained his ankle. Oh my gosh, this is so good. But
Yeah, that's pretty close to where he was stabbed.
oh, oh. I couldn't look. I couldn't look.
Yeah, and by the way, he does do this in the novel.
I don't like that he does this, Darth Plato. I don't like it.
It's worse in the book.
It's awful. This is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen in my life. Ugh, it's so awful.
In the special edition, I think the king fainted. The director's cut, I mean.
Oh, it's so hard to watch.
Yeah, in the Iliad, the funeral of Patroclus was actually after the duel, and during the burning of the body, he was actually he actually had the body of Hector with him. He was actually dragging the body around with him the entire time.
This is disgusting. I'm sorry. It's so disgusting.
He was supposed to be over the top.
All sorts of emotions in this movie, right, Darth Plato?
It is one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite movies, and also one of the movies I like to criticize. This the scene with the Briseis was it's just for the movie. It wasn't in the novel. This is an amazing scene both in the movie and in the Iliad itself.
Oh, when he comes to retrieve his
Yes.
son's body?
Yeah, this is an amazing scene. And you should have used that advantage when you were attacking the night before, or night before last. How did Peleus die?
I don't know.
I know Peleus. He was on the Argonauts. He jumped off the ship to be with the one of the nymphs who was. That's how Achilles actually was born. But I'm not sure what ultimately happened to him. Amazing sound too. The sound's amazing.
It is.
An amazing shot of humility, humanity.
It really is. I think that he was not expecting that soliloquy to affect him in that way.
It's almost like he realizes that now that he had fought for the wrong king the entire time.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what ultimately happened with Briseis.
It's not like she can go back to the temple now.
Escorted by Myrmidon. That's an amazing sight.
That's an amazing, yeah, that's just unbelievable. And J.H. Edis says, Bloom, why? This really was an incredibly dramatic sequence there. Oh,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd like to see you try it. So the Iliad actually ends at this point. It ends with the burial of Hector. It doesn't continue after this. It's weird. It's weird that Homer chose to end it at that point, and then in the Odyssey, he refers back to certain events that was the end of the war. He doesn't actually show it here. It's kind of weird that he did it that way. It's
I
almost like
agree.
it's almost like there was a book between the two. Basically, I guess he's his own warlord.
And Jane H. Edit says, interesting. Why did they keep going? It's a good question.
Yeah, I forgot this was in the theatrical version.
And for the theatrical purpose of this film, Darth Plato, the 12 days, or maybe they were already building that Trojan horse, maybe they even sailed it over, um, is a possibility. Let's say for the sake of the film, so people could put into perspective, there's a certain amount of time between where they have like a ceasefire, if you will.
Yeah, he was buried. He wasn't burned. The book very specifically states that.
But I think it is interesting, setting up a specific amount of time, because we know that it might
Why
have
did they
taken
keep?
longer than that or shorter. The amount of time is irrelevant. The notion is just to go ahead and present a, a space of time that if they went ahead and said, they could have gone ahead and said it 1 year later, but they'd already established that 12-year break. And I think that for the purpose of the film, it makes sense.
I think there was a truce, but
Hmm.
yeah, I don't. It wasn't in the Iliad because it ended with yeah. There was a truce. Achilles did say there would be a truce.
Yes, Wolfgang Peterson was brilliant.
So the Trojan horse doesn't actually appear in the Iliad. Interestingly enough, it is referred to in the Odyssey,
Hmm.
except he refers to it as the carven horse, not the Trojan horse. The men did hide inside of it, yeah. But this is actually a really cool looking thing.
I like what they constructed for the film, Darth Vader. It looks good.
But see, look, it looks like it looks like people on a beach taking apart the boats to build it.
It
They're building it with what they had on the beach. That's why it looks cool. It doesn't look like something an artist made. It was something they cobbled together quickly. I think it's cool that it looks like that.
and I love, they added in that part where um Paris says, "Father, I want you to burn it." And of course that would have solved a lot, if they had.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's huge. It's
With yeah,
enormous.
with Greek mythology, think of Greek mythology like Star Wars. So original Star Wars is George Lucas, and original Greek mythology is Homer. So Homer is like the George Lucas of Greek mythology, and everything that came after Homer is really just expanded universe and Disney. And the Greek mythology has that too. There's a lot of writers after Homer who try to continue the story and embellish the story of everything that's going on here. So the whole thing about the Trojan horse, about how many men there were, what their names were, what actually happened after that, all that is embellishment post Homer. We know that the city did fall. We know that it did involve Odysseus and his and Guile and getting the horse into the city where the men waited until nightfall to attack from the inside and open the gates. So that did happen in canon, if you want to call it the Homeric canon, so to speak. But beyond that, we don't really. Everything's implied. I think that's why he ended it because it's an implied. You can say more. Sometimes you can say more with less than more. So something don't need to be stated. I think that's what's going on. And by the way, anybody who's watching the special edition right now, it's pretty shocking. They don't hold back on the detail of the sex.
Oh,
The theatrical version doesn't show the infanticide.
well, JH Edit says, "Who was the JJ?" I hope there wasn't one. We can't make an analogy to Abrams because let's hope there wasn't. They've been forgotten in time.
The JJ, I guess, would be Aeschylus.
Now, this is a fantastic sneak attack. I love it. They're incredibly quiet, Darth Plato, even in for the sake of the film. It's quiet. Love it.
Yeah. Also, Achilles was not part of the action. Achilles was dead by this time, so he did die during the 12 days of the truce. He did not take part in this action.
And for those of you who are watching the theatrical version with us, there's only a few minutes left of this spectacular film, which we kind of know what happens in this last 10 or 15 minutes, as Darth Plato was saying. But I just love the way they filmed this. You can feel the flow. You're moving with the force of this army going in, and it just feels like this. It reminds me of some things I've seen in some other films when it's kind of like a red something red goes through the city and it just flows through like a river. It's like a river of men, just
Yeah,
slaughtering everybody in their path. It's
it's
unbelievably well done.
it's the siege of Mandalore.
Yeah. And once again, is that singing, that beautiful singing, that evokes so much emotion in a scene that is incredibly emotional.
And if you want to see more of that, then just Google and what do you call it? Ethnic whaling. But a lot of it is just exactly that. Whaling. It's not a lot of what they're saying isn't actually um, intelligible. Yeah, get out of town quick.
That tunnel's looking pretty good right about now.
This is one of the reasons why I don't think you can do a faithful adaptation because the sack of a city, especially in ancient times, it's just not something you can show to a modern audience. If they really showed what happened here, you would have people coming out. You would have people coming out of theaters literally weeping.
Terrified. All right, and of course, here comes the fateful scene that we all know was coming.
I got mine.
It's kind of hard to watch.
I mean, this is the edited version.
Hmm. She's insane. She's letting people go before her. She needs to go.
And there's Aeneas. So what that scene, that entire scene right there was a nod to the Roman poet Virgil, because during the time of Caesar Augustus, he wrote a poem connecting the Trojan War to Rome at that time, modern Rome modern by that time, suggesting that the Romans were the continuation of the Trojan legacy, and how they were supplanting the Greeks in the world. It's part of the myth that the Greeks had been a great civilization and they were in decline, and now Rome was the dominant state. It was part of that. Part of the propaganda of the time. And that scene that you saw in the movie right now was a nod to that. A good speech from the Lord Commander.
Oh dear. And he's like Legolas, right? A
Yeah,
Legolas throwback. It's probably after Legolas, right?
he
I
did. He was an archer.
Yes.
That could be an embellishment after the fact. Well, you know what? Paris dies too. He doesn't survive the Trojan War,
Ugh.
but that's not part of the Iliad either. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure if Homer had his fate in mind. We know Achilles dies. We know Agamemnon dies because Odysseus encounters them in the land of the dead. But everything else we don't know. It's all implied. So other authors after the fact try to include the deal. Yeah, I hate this scene. Like
I
really,
hate
that
it too. This is exactly what people don't want to necessarily see, but it's the truth or some of the truth of what happened. Ugh.
yeah, I hate that scene. And I hate this scene too.
I hate this scene as well. Well, that's an exaggeration. I
Well,
don't think so. Ha! This is like one of those moments, right?
so
Thank God I had that dagger on my waist.
that was 2,000 years of dramatic poetry. He
And
does it like
why?
Legolas too. That's so dumb.
Why couldn't they have had a few moments together? Damn.
Yeah, and they do the heel thing, the Achilles heel.
No.
The
I didn't look.
Achilles heel is part of the embellishment after the fact.
Yeah, I don't want to look. I'm not looking.
You can look now.
I'm not looking. I'm not.
Okay,
No.
okay, it's done now. When did Tarrant die? I don't remember. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, JH Edit says he's so young here. I recently watched him in Gran Turismo.
Well, Agamemnon dies when he went back home, but he didn't die in Troy. He was actually uh, he was actually killed by his wife's lover, the guy who cuckolded him. Clytemnestra was his wife. Oh boy.
Thanks, Paris.
Right. So Homer does say that Achilles died at some point, but it may not have gone down like that.
Oh, God, I hope not.
I never did like the angle of the Achilles heel. I
I
thought,
didn't
I
either.
don't.
And I'm sure he's not happy that we named a tendon after him, too.
Yeah, I'm sure Homer is in the other world wherever he is. Like, well, that's not what I wrote.
Yeah. And thank you, J&H. And it
You,
says,
you
we'll always
amateurs.
have Paris. I love it. I love it. And Tom says his poor heel. I think JH Edits definitely summed it up there. What a spectacular film, Darth Plato. This film will never get old.
You always have Paris. Yeah, just go to Texas. You'll see Paris.
So,
But
guys,
yeah, yeah, and also the in the opening scene where the kid says, "I heard that you can't be killed." That's kind of a tribute to the embellishment of the Homer's legacy, the idea that Achilles was invincible because he had been dipped into the river Styx as a baby, and
but
so
not his heel, right?
not his heel. His vulnerability was the heel. That's some later author, not Homer, tried to suggest that. So if that's true, then he literally wasn't invincible. He didn't need armor or a shield.
That's correct.
So they kind of made fun of that scene in the opening, made fun of that angle in the opening scene.
Absolutely. Um, and what I was going to say is, yeah, I just love this film so much. It hasn't changed in 20 years for me. It really has not aged at all. It's a wonderful film. This is a wonderful historical film. It's not 100% accurate to the Iliad, but I think that's all right. Um,
It is.
what are some of your final thoughts on the film, Darth Leto?
Well, just to finish the thought, I think they should remake this movie, and I think it should be like Clash of Titans. Just do a balls to the wall, bring in the gods, let them wreck shop, and let us see what really happened up to a point. Of course, the sack of the city. I don't think you can. I don't think you can really show that. Just do the best you can. The spears this way, spears that way, and it's going to be violent, and it's going to be awesome.
It will be awesome. And I do want to remind you guys to check out Tom Jr. Jackson's YouTube channel. Tom has his own YouTube channel. He's a moderator here, collaborator, and good friend. Certainly, we are all goof people. This wonderful movie deserved so much. It was nominated. It got a lot of nominations, right, Darth Leto, but it didn't get a
Yep.
lot of wins for the Academy Award. I know it was nominated for Best Costume. Why do you think it didn't win? Was it a year that there was, I guess, more
I don't
incredible
know.
films? Or
Yeah, I don't. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is when I talk to people about this movie, it's one of two things. It's either I love this movie on the one hand, and the other time it's like, oh, God, I hate this movie.
Really?
Yes, it's the extreme. It's one or the other. I've never, I don't know anyone that think, oh yeah, it's okay. I don't know anyone that thinks that. It's they either love this movie or they hate this movie.
I had no idea that there was that type of feeling about it.
Like
And
take the classic. I talked to people in the classic department at Berkeley about this. They absolutely loathe this movie.
yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. I just it breaks my
It's a
heart.
guilty pleasure.
But it's also, I think whoever, I think it's made by someone who does love this story. And while it may not be 100% accurate, there is a strong desire to tell some of the story and to inspire people to be um, interested in it.
Yeah,
So,
I mostly agree. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I
So,
mostly agree. What I would change is the part about Achilles being flippant about the gods and chopping off the head of the statue and kind of being like, "Oh, Apollo's real, huh? Well, where is he, huh? Come on, strike me down. Come on." We don't need that. That was stupid. They just leave that part out.
yeah, it was like a dare. And I think that it was well beyond the dare, like, you know, I think that the performances were stellar as well. The fighting sequences were stellar. As I mentioned, the costumes, I love the costumes. The production design was certainly the best of the best. Darth Plato, you and I were amazed by so many of these sweeping scenes of seeing the ships in the water. Um, so much of it had a lovely flow to it. But I also, like you, didn't enjoy the scene with Achilles and Eric Bana's character. I can't remember the name. But the point that I think is very interesting is, even though that scene was somewhat disappointing, and there was a lot of, I think there was a lot put in there that you kind of like, oh, why did that have to happen? I think even though it may not have been to our taste, it was still tastefully done. What do you think?
I agree. I love the look of the movie. Most of all, I like the sound of the movie.
Yeah.
That's what I love most about this movie. The acting, yeah, you're right. It's phenomenal. I think Brad Pitt is. I think it's a first-rate actor. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I'd put him on par with like Marlon Brando or George C. Scott, but he's pretty darn good.
Yeah, and Tom Jr. Jackson talks about Clash of the Titans. He has it in 3D. Now, do you have the one from the 80s as well as the one with
Yeah, the original, not the remake.
oh, so with sort of like the claymation uh characters, which I love, that incredible those practical effects are so wonderful. Um or do you have the one with Worthington, Sam Worthington, who I also like in that? I thought he was great in it. Diner Dinosaur says Memnon, the African king, was missing. Would have been bold to include him. Yeah, that would have been interesting to do something like that to Dino Dinosaur. Maybe when they do the remake or something like it, because they're going to keep making movies about this, right, Dark Plato? It's not ever going to stop. The theater has never stopped doing plays about this story. So certainly we would expect to see more and more films coming out as time goes by. Um, oh, I need okay. Well, Tom Jr. Jackson, thank you for sharing that with us. Also want to thank you too, Darth Plato, for recommending this film. This is an excellent choice. I love this film. I think there is something very special about Troy, and the scene we have here with this is actually Brad Pitt holding the his sword to Eric Bana's throat, which I loved. I loved that. So I said, yeah, let's use that as a background. Um, Darth Vader, I just want to thank you again for joining me tonight. Oh, you have the Sam Worthington, and is it in three? It's in 3D. Is it, or is it just regular D? I guess I could ask you that afterwards, right,
Oh
Tom?
right. Oh yeah. Rather tight. I remember that. Yeah.
But guys, thank you everybody who's here. Dino
I forgot
Dinosaur,
about that.
yeah, JH Edits,
That was so
who
stupid. They turned Kronos into a kaiju monster. That was dumb.
and the Basco scenario was also here. Monzo Kilborn as well, and Blazon Asian. Thank you so much. Wex Wuther also was here, and Brogu, who stopped by earlier. Thank you so much, everybody, for stopping by. It's been a pleasure to uh, host the film. Darth Plato, it's always a pleasure to be here with you. Where can people find you, Darth Plato?
People don't care about where they can find me. They care about where they can find you. But I'll humor you. You can find me right here on the Positive Fandom, the It channel.
Yes, you can, and you can reach out to the Burnettwork too to get in contact with Darth Plato if you wish. Of course, guys, you can find me here on Positive Fandom and on the Burnettwork. Darth Plato and I have a special where we're going to be talking about historical films.
Yeah, I read that this morning. Read that article.
Yes, that's going to be coming up soon. So, guys, certainly be on the lookout for that. And thank you, everybody who's supporting here, who comes every week. Thank you so much for joining us in these incredible films. Once again, thanks, Tom Jr. Jackson, for everything. And I so appreciate it. Um, thank you, JH Edits. I'm trying to, I think we will get more. We will get more from Darth Plato coming up. I promise you for that, everybody.
Oh, you
And
want more? You're gonna get it.
yes, you are going to get more. And I just want to thank Darth Plato for also agreeing to do everything that he does here. So on behalf of everybody, I want to thank everybody here. Um, guys, have a good night. Live long and prosper. And remember, guys, no matter where you are in the galaxy, always remember to please be kind. Take care, everybody.